Hello and welcome to Positive Parenting. I'm Deanne Conrad, the Community Relations Supervisor for the Sioux Falls School District. Our topic today on Positive Parenting is the important role that athletic trainers play in helping our student athletes become successful and also become healthy again after an injury. The Positive Parenting program is a joint venture between the medical and child development professionals of Sanford Health and our education professionals of the Sioux Falls School District. So we thank you for joining us today for this important conversation, and we will have our guests introduce themselves before we get started with our conversation today. And we'll start with you, Trig.
I'm Trig Godney. I'm the sports medicine manager for Sanford Health here in Sioux Falls, and I'm a certified athletic trainer.
Awesome.
I'm Chad Statham. I'm head football coach at Sioux Falls, Washington.
Awesome. Thank you guys for joining us today for this conversation. I think that the role of athletic trainers has evolved over time and has really become a significant part of any athletic program in any school district, across the state. Trig, talk a little bit about what an athletic trainer does for a school athletic program, just in general. It's probably a big, wide open question, right?
Yeah, we could use the 30 minutes on that.
Yeah.
But,
well, go ahead.
The athletic trainer really is the person who spearheads the athletic healthcare team for a school. And what that means is that they're going to work with the parents, the coaches, the athletes, and the administration to ensure that we have a safe environment for the athletes to participate in, and they'll manage from no injury existing to helping that athlete avoid the injury, to managing an emergency situation, to handling the regular ankle sprains or things that occur, and then safely getting the athletes back to sports. So they have quite a continuum of care that they carry, and what we've seen over the last 20 years that I've been in the state is quite a change from a lot of schools not even having any kind of contact with an athletic trainer to a number of schools now having multiple athletic trainers. So the value of the athletic trainer certainly has been recognized, and the schools around here are certainly taking advantage of that.
Sure. I think, I'd like to think it's not so long ago that I was participating in high school sports, and if you had an ankle or something that needed to be taped, coach probably did it, or maybe the student manager or something along that line. And injury, well, dip it in ice for a while and then heat for a while. And I think we were self-diagnosing many times what the injuries might have been. So it's come a long way since then.
It has, and the athletic trainer certainly should be viewed as a resource for everyone within the school, because they don't just work with athletes, they work with anybody who's physically active, and can also assist in other health conditions that might be occurring, whether it's asthma or diabetes. Obviously, we talk about childhood obesity and some of those issues that come into play. So the athletic trainer certainly can be a voice to assist any of those individuals and hopefully promote a healthy lifestyle for all.
Absolutely. Chad, you have the title of coach for Washington High School football. That's a big title to carry, but one you've carried well. For you, what's it like to have the support of an athletic training team to help your athletes?
I think it's a wonderful resource, like Trig said. It takes a lot of pressure off us. I've been at small school where you are the trainer, you are the coach, and now we just know, like if an injury does happen, a student athlete can know that they can go to that person, evaluate them, and the practice can continue on, and we can accomplish what we want to get accomplished. And so having that trainer there, and it also is a relief, because obviously I'm not an expert on things, and in the safety of the kids, it's really important. And they do everything for us, from the ankle sprain to monitoring the weather. And we've been fortunate to have the trainers that we've had, and it really makes a safe environment for our kids.
Right. One of the big topics, obviously, has been concussions, and that immediate assessment. And the importance of that oftentimes we think of football being where concussions occur, though honestly they can happen in any sport. And even as a bystander, I've heard of people who've been watching games who've been injured or received concussions or anything along that line. But the concussion piece of it has really heightened, I think, the awareness of what athletic trainers do, because as you know, a hard hit takes place on the field, you get your bell rung. You know, it used to be kind of a sense of toughness, I think, if you stayed in the game, and that really has changed over
Absolutely.
time.
Yeah, just in the last 10 years, I think the research alone has really shown us where concussions have, you know, the effect of it has on everyone that plays the games or any type of game. And I think we're getting more and more with research and studies of the brain. We're getting more aware of the effects of concussions and preventive. And the preventive's a big one. And trainers play a big part of that. And our kids, you know, that toughness aspect, that's where our trainers have to really develop a relationship with our kids. They have to know our kids. We're very aware. We always tell our kids, like, if there's something not right, talk to the trainer. Don't hide anything, and make sure that they talk to them. And sometimes some kids will come in and say, hey, I don't feel well. It could be anything from a head cold to, you know, yeah, they have a concussion. And the trainer needs to know that and evaluate that kid. And they have to develop a good relationship with them so they can trust them.
Sure. So in that vein, Trig, building relationships, that's part of knowing whether an athlete is, you know, going to be okay or whether they do need to, you know, sit out or what have you. But building that relationship, I think, is pretty key, right?
It's vital. You know, I often go out and cover sports in my current role where I might be on a sideline for one game and that's it. And one thing that really helps the athletic trainer and the coaches as well is that they understand how that athlete acts, what their mannerisms are, what, you know, how they converse. And I don't necessarily always have that advantage when I go out and cover a sport. So I do rely on others to do that. But for an athletic trainer that's assigned to a school, that relationship can be everything. And it doesn't have to just be concussions, but it's a trust. It is rapport with not only the athlete but the parents. And so the encouragement I would also have for parents is to say, your son or daughter doesn't have to be injured for you to introduce yourself to the athletic trainer and get to know them, because if something does happen, then again, relationship exists, and you can have probably a more constructive conversation and interaction that's going to, again, benefit the health of the athlete and just help in decision making.
Absolutely.
For how that athlete returns to sport.
Wonderful. Yeah, that I think, like I said, I think that probably is the injury that we hear of that makes me think of, you know, gosh, it's great to have somebody that can assess in a situation like that what the signs and symptoms are. Who are those professionals? What kind of background training or constant training are you guys going through in terms of staying on top of the latest research and things like that?
Well, we, as a healthcare professional, we have continuing education requirements. Every 2 years we have a certain number of credits that we have to report. There's been some changes in that over the last few years that really lead towards evidence-based practice or practice that is backed by research. And so it's important that people know that that's really where all of the education is going. It needs to be supported. At Sanford, we're doing a lot of different research in the world of concussions. We have a concussion specialist, Dr. Verl Valentine, who really leads our team. He's on the forefront of that. He participates with groups nationally and internationally and does various research, both clinically with his diagnosis and evaluative tools, but also with return to sport. And so I feel fairly blessed working where I do that I have that kind of support and that kind of expertise that really keeps me up to speed, keeps our athletic trainers in all of our different settings up to speed, because we want to make sure we're providing the best care possible. The care that I provided for concussions when I first became an athletic trainer back in the mid-90s is much different than what it is today. We used to take kids and we'd evaluate them, and we'd sit them out for 20 minutes, we'd reevaluate, and if we didn't see anything, they'd go back to play. And now we sit here and I think about that, and it's like, wow, what might have happened in those situations just because we didn't know. And so that's where, again, that research really lends itself to the care that we can provide.
Yeah, and all that detailed research and that they're working on while you're working on, I mean, you're not just a coach, you're a teacher too, so you have that as your primary responsibility, and then, you know, coaching beyond that. There's no possible way you could stay on top of all the latest research.
No, and you shouldn't. I mean, you're a teacher. Like, I'm a history teacher. That's what I do.
Yeah.
I'm not a medical field guy.
So could you teach history?
I actually had a major in history.
Oh,
so
well, that was a loaded question.
I don't know if I could teach it, but I would be interested in it.
Okay, but good call on that. But I was going to say the swap wouldn't be so easy, but maybe it would. But in terms of, you know, that expertise, it's just invaluable.
Absolutely. Like I said, I'm a teacher. I'm not a medical field expert, and that's why having a trainer there and knowing if a kid's struggling in practice it might be heat, you know, and everyone reacts differently. They're acclimated differently. It's just nice to have our trainer there. Our trainers will sit on the sideline, and he has apps for like lightning. He has apps for heat, and we have certain heat standards that we follow with our trainer, and we communicate. Even during the day, we know it's going to be warm, and we communicate, and he'll tell us, you know, hey, heads up, I think we're only going to be able to go helmets today. Absolutely. And we follow that rule, and we communicate with each other, we work with each other. And I think the kids see that, and I think like going back to the trust, and the kids see that I trust my trainer, and my trainer trusts myself, that the kids will have developed the trust for the trainer too, to go to them when they do have some problems.
Yeah, that's modeling and leading by example. Definitely is you're building a relationship as well.
Correct. And, you know, I do trust my trainer, and I always tell my kids, you know, if our trainer says, you can't go, you can't go. I said, I'm going to back up our trainer's decision making.
Yeah, and that's hard as a coach sometimes too.
Yes, it is, but then again, we're coaching a game, and the aspect of the kid and their general well-being is more important in my opinion.
Absolutely. What's the biggest injury that athletic trainers are dealing with? Is it the sprains, that kind of thing, or
the most common?
Most common. Not biggest, but most common. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably going to be either a muscle strain of some type. Those happen almost on a daily basis, or it might be an ankle sprain. I mean, that's obviously a very common injury for any sport that has some type of change of direction, and most sports have some type of change of
don't
direction.
Know too many that don't.
Track doesn't have as many of those, but we still see some ankles there.
Sure.
But that's probably the most common thing that we might see is either that ankle joint or some type of a muscle, often a hamstring or quad or calf muscle that would have an injury to it. Upper extremity has fewer injuries. The injury rates are, the nice thing about athletic trainers being full-time at the schools here is that a lot of injuries happen in practice, not just at games. And so, over half of the injuries happen in a practice setting. So having the athletic trainer around each day creates a relationship that we've talked about, but also then provides those care opportunities that sometimes only exist for student athletes at a game setting.
Right.
And so the depth of that relationship, the depth of care that's available certainly is much more broad in this area.
Yeah, and I think we've learned a lot over time too, thinking back to, years and years. Yes, there was probably, that preventative piece where you're doing your stretching and the proper stretches and things like that. But again, I think science has come so far that we've learned a lot about muscles and the way in which they work and how to make sure that they're not tight and, able to handle the various movements that are going on. So that stretching piece is important too.
It is. And, there's still controversy about what the best way to warm up for an activity is. I think we've gone more to the route of a dynamic type of warm-up where we're moving and we're allowing the muscles to gradually get used to the activity, get some blood flow in there, increase the elasticity to those muscles rather than calisthenics and just sitting and doing static stretching. And so we've moved more in that world, and you'll find teams that don't even do any static stretching, and that seems to be totally fine according to the research that we see. And so coaches need to make the decisions, and they can have obviously conversations with the athletic trainers about what to do, but it really also comes down to what does the coach feel mentally prepares and physically prepares their athletes to play. And so there can be a collaborative conversation about how to reach that common ground and make sure that you're doing the right thing for the student athlete.
Yeah.
Correct, and we worked with our trainer this last year, and we implemented, he wanted to really do more dynamic stretch in the beginning, which we created, and we went through him, and he liked them, and then he also wanted to add some type of warm down at the very end, type of dynamic stretching at the very end of practice, and we went to that, and our kids, after the first 2 weeks of fall practice, really liked it. They felt that they revived, they were better, they felt better coming back to practice, and so we've stuck with that plan, and I'm willing to listen to my to my trainer on ideas on how to prepare our kids and so that they're healthy.
That's great. Yeah, it is that collaborative effort for sure. So the times that trainers have been most appreciated, I'm certain they're appreciated every day, but can you think of a situation where you were grateful, an injury or something like that, where you were grateful that somebody was there, and just kind of talk us through what that looked like or what the concern was?
You know, I've been on numerous injuries and I've watched, but the biggest probably thing that I like with trainers is how they come to the kid and they're calm. And when certain kids on certain aspects on the field, right away they think they're hurt. And I've been in situations where, you know, they're not hurt. They just, they just need a moment to get back, and the trainers calmed them down and got them back on their feet and calmed down and, you know, got them going again. And just that reassurance that you're okay. Even when they are injured, just saying you're okay. You know, we'll get you calmed down. We'll take care of you. Don't panic. And I think that's the biggest thing when I do see an event happen in practice or in the field, is just how they're able to just get the individual just to relax and let us take care of you. And you know, you don't need to don't worry about getting back on the field. We're going to take care of you, and in due time you'll make it back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I know that you know, in past injuries or reported injuries and that type of thing, that you know, people have said and coaches have said that just the crucial first moments of assessment after somebody is, you know, if they're down on the field or what have you, you know, they're trying to take care of the other kids who are worried about their friend, who are, you know, and that type of thing. And it does play a really important role that they provide that sense of calm, and that, you know, we're going to take care of you. So.
Well, they present the calm, but they may not always be calm inside. You know, we have probably the biggest things for us are when an emergency occurs. So whether that might be a suspected cervical spine injury or a significant joint injury, those are the ones that get your adrenaline going and your heart pumping. And obviously there's a lot of stress with those things. What we try to do is after the fact, talk with our staff and debrief. And really talk about the situation, because sometimes maybe they didn't present themselves quite as calm as what they maybe could have, or did they think through all the steps that they needed to. And so we'll try to do a debrief. I tell my staff, if you have an ambulance call, let me know, shoot me a text, just let me know that happened. We'll talk the next day or that night if they prefer to, just so that we can talk through the situation, so that next time we have even more experience and thought that we can provide to any care that we provide. So it's important for them also just to calm down and be able to talk about the situation.
Well, really, I'm just, as you're saying that, I'm thinking, yeah, that really puts a new emphasis on first responders. You know, that they are first responders in terms of, you know, even you think of your ambulance professionals and your, you know, if police are needed or whatever as first responders, but they are standing there. If something's going to happen, they are first on scene.
That's right. And they need to be prepared. Yeah. I mean, when I go to the sideline for a football game, I run through several things in my head. I'll run through my concussion management plan. I'll run through what happens if I have a cervical spine injury. Where's my ambulance? Do they transport? Don't they? Because I often will be out in a small community, so I don't always know some of those details until I get there. I'll run through my knee exam in my head. I want to make sure that I'm ready to go. And so there's preparation that the team does to get ready to play. There's also should be preparation for the medical provider to make sure that they're ready for the situations that may arise.
Right. Chad, you mentioned prior to coming to Sioux Falls that you were in a smaller school district. How far out does Sanford reach in terms of providing, you know, these athletic training?
Based out of Sioux Falls, I think our furthest school is probably about 55 miles away. And some of those schools might be what we would call part-time schools, so they get a couple of contacts during the week. They do get some event coverage, but not full coverage. But once we get closer to, as that radius becomes smaller to Sioux Falls, the amount of care that's provided, the amount of hours and time spent at the school certainly increases dramatically. Absolutely.
Well, I think that's you know, something that we've just maybe taken for granted over time here in Sioux Falls, but the partnership that we have, you know, between the schools and between Sanford and, you know, just our medical community in general is just amazing. And I don't know what it's like in other cities or school districts, but I got to believe we're doing a lot of things right.
I think we're pretty well off. If you live in this community, and whatever your health need might be, you have a lot of resources available to you, and that certainly is evident in what's available at the schools now as well.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of, you mentioned it's not necessarily just athletes that you're working with, but you can be a resource beyond for many other medical conditions or concerns. What does that look like during the day, or how are you sharing that information back and forth with school professionals?
Well, it's you want to make sure that, again, we talk about relationships right at the beginning of the show, and you want to make sure that you have the relationships with the right people. So school nurses are certainly a person that we want to make sure that we have a relationship with. It might be that they are encountering issues and we can be a resource for them, or maybe we have a student athlete who is concussed and we need to talk with them as well as the administration about some accommodations that need to happen within the classroom. So that's one key one. But a lot of kids are active, whether it's PE and they're doing things. It might be, the big one that I think of is band. In a particular marching band. And so, it wasn't uncommon for me when I worked in the high school setting to see band athletes on a regular basis because they're on their feet constantly. They are doing rigorous activity. It might be heat problems that they have. Maybe they had a fall. Maybe they've sprained an ankle. Maybe they just have an overuse type of situation. And so there are other personnel within the school that you should make sure that you have that relationship, that connection with. So if they have an issue, they can use you as that resource. You never know when you might need to use them as a resource. I'm not sure what that resource might be from a band. We need some music in the athletic training room.
Right, you need some calming music maybe.
I think the athletic trainer needs to almost take the lead to say, who else can I have an impact on in this school? And they need to make sure that then they find if they need a resource, such as maybe it's the athletic director, activities director, to help make those connections, that they do so, because there's a lot of people that can benefit from the athletic trainer being in place, and I don't think any student athlete or student should feel that they're not welcome in the athletic trainer, because they are, and that's why that person is there.
Wonderful. Yeah, those oftentimes, I know there's debate about, how hard do band members really work? Well, if you've ever been in a band, you know that it's hard work. You're out there practicing, and no, you don't have pads on like the football player, but you might be carrying, the bass drum or whatever, and you're still, your body is susceptible to the heat, the constant use and those types of things. So, and the band's got to be important to the football coach too, right? Jazz you up and get you excited about things.
Well, of course, and like our football players always have respect for our band kids because they're out there working hard all the time, and people don't realize they're holding the equipment, they're on the they're in the heat of the day too, and they have they're affected by the same way the football players are as well.
Absolutely. Cheer. Now, that's probably become, since become more of a competitive sport. They're doing a lot more stunts. They're doing a lot more, high-end things that maybe we would have seen at the college level or something in the past. But is that taking some of your attention as well?
Certainly. It is a sanctioned sport, both competitive dance, competitive cheer. But even before that, we would see the cheerleaders in the athletic training room. If you actually go out and look at the injury rates, and probably the best place to look at injury rates is really from the college setting, because that's where they've been able to do that injury epidemiology to show those risks. Cheerleading has a fairly high injury rate, and it's a variety of injuries, from concussions to cervical spine injuries to joints that are injured, and obviously muscles and such that can be injured as well. And so we see them. We see them regularly, and so it's something that for the athletic trainer, I think that if they've never been exposed to what they do in a practice setting, to what they do on a regular basis, it's important for them to get out there and observe that setting as well, because understanding the mechanisms of injury is very important to getting the athlete back safely, because it might change how you do your rehabilitation. It might change some of the things that you want to test with that student athlete to make sure that they're now ready to return. So an athletic trainer better be pretty well versed in the different activities for the students that they're going to be providing care for.
Right, and we have a range of them, from, the club sports of bowling and, swimming and softball and baseball, and that's not club sport, but those kinds of things are, any possibilities are out there. The injuries are out there no matter what. So,
that's right.
Well, we're coming up on the end of our time. Any final thoughts from you, Chad, about just the role that these guys play and the appreciation we have for them?
Oh, we're very appreciative of them. The parents have got to understand that they're taken care of. They have their eye out there at all our practices. They're helping out, making sure kids are being hydrated, and they're making sure that they're keeping an eye on our kids, making sure so the kids can just go out and have fun and perform. So they're vital to the success of our programs. And I tell you what, we're pretty lucky here in Sioux Falls to have the luxury of these individuals like Trig and others that come in and help us out.
Absolutely. Any final thoughts for people at home who might be watching about your role?
Really, it's just probably for the parents is to make sure you know what's available to you. Whether it's in the secondary school setting or youth sports, what health care is available to you? What training do the coaches go through on the emergency side? Are they CPR 80 certified? So just having an understanding of the resources available to you is important. You want to be in the know rather than guessing, and so that would probably be the encouragement that I would have for people.
Absolutely, and we are CPR and AED certified.
Correct.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you both for joining us today. I think it's a topic that many of us, you might see them on the sidelines at a football game or a basketball game, but their role is much bigger than football and basketball, and really they're in our schools to support all students who are active at any point during the day. So thank you for joining us today on Positive Parenting.